If there is a team that needs to make moves in this offseason, that needs to make moves happen, it's the Seattle Seahawks. Ever since the loss in Super Bowl 49, the Seahawks have just gone downhill. In fact, in the 3 years ever since the heartbreaking loss in the Super Bowl to New England, where they didn't hand it off to Marshawn Lynch at the goal line with less than 30 seconds left, they have not made it past the divisional round, including not making the playoffs in 2017. And the reason why I say the Seahawks need to make moves happen is because of what's in their division. The Rams made the playoffs this year. The 49ers are on the rise with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. So if you can look at this NFC West, the Seahawks aren't as dominant anymore. Or at least with the way things are going, they're not going to be as dominant. They still know how to win games. They still beat the Rams once this year. They beat the 49ers twice this year. But how long is that going to keep up? Because the Seahawks, it's appeared that this year they've won with defense. They've won it with talent. So the Seahawks got to make moves happen in this offseason. Because the Rams and 49ers, they're getting better as every day goes by. And the Cardinals, they might need a few years. I would say give the Cardinals maybe about 2 or 3 years to let things happen. So the Seahawks are going downhill at this point. But with this 18th pick in the draft, maybe the Seahawks, maybe they can get back into the NFC West mix. Now, as you can see in the draft behind me, there are 4 points I think they need to address an issue with. As you can see, the top of the list is an offensive line. Offensive linemen. We've talked about offensive linemen quite frequently in the last couple of draft boards. We've talked about offensive line quite frequently so far. We've talked about it with Indianapolis. We've talked about it with San Francisco. We've talked about it with Tampa Bay. We've talked about it with Cincinnati. We've talked about it with Baltimore. We've talked about it with the Chargers. We've talked about it quite frequently. And there should still be some offensive line still available by the time we get to the Seahawks. Now, the Seahawks, I think, made a mistake last year by trading the 26th pick, considering you still had Cam Robinson and you still had Ryan Ramczyk, 2 offensive linemen still on the board. So I think the Seahawks really made a mistake. If the Seahawks don't go offensive line with this 18th pick, I think they're going to be in trouble in 2018. Considering the Rams have gotten better, the 49ers are going to get better. So if they don't go offensive line with this 18th pick, I think they're in trouble. I think the Seahawks are looking at an 8-8 season right in the face. But even though I think the offensive line is what the pick's going to be, we've got to address the other 3 things. Wide receiver, tight end, and running back. Now, the thing I want to address first is the running backs. I think this is the most important one. Because ever since Marshawn Lynch left Seattle, the running game for the Seahawks has been by committee. We've seen C.J. Forsythe. We've seen Eddie Lacy. We've seen Mike Davis. It's been a running back by committee. And the Seahawks, I think the Seahawks might trade for a running back here. They might trade for a running back maybe in the offseason. In fact, there was an interesting video that I saw yesterday. It was a video that said or suggested the possibilities of maybe the Seahawks trading the Bills, Earl Thomas, in exchange for LaShawn McCoy and a second-round pick. And I thought that was kind of interesting. I'll leave the link to that video in the description box. And I found it quite interesting. Maybe the Seahawks, because the Seahawks need a running back. Because ever since Marshawn Lynch left it, like I said, it's been by committee. And for wide receiver and tight end, they've got Paul Richardson probably. Paul Richardson might not be back. He might test out free agency. And Jimmy Graham is an impending free agent. And Jimmy Graham, I've been reading that the Packers, the Ravens, are in talks with Jimmy Graham. Even the Falcons are giving Jimmy Graham some looks. So the pick here should be offensive line. They got to address wide receiver, tight end, running back with later picks. But for right now, the 18th pick should be offensive line because that's the Seahawks' biggest need. And if they don't go offensive line, I think they're staring an 8-8 season right in the face because the Rams and 49ers are getting better and are on the rise.